Ladies and gents, we have a sponsor. Beer 52 have agreed to sponsor the podcast. Amazing news, and there's brilliant news for you guys as well. We'll talk you through it now.
Rob, as you know, I've been absolutely balls deep in craft beers for a few years now, and I love finding those little hidden gems that you don't find in supermarkets, and that is where Beer 52 comes in.
The best thing about it, Joe, is that they're offering a free case of 8 craft beers, sourced, curated from over the globe. All you need to do is go to www.beer52.com/fishon and cover the $5.95 for postage.
Beer 52 is the world's most popular craft beer discovery club with over 100,000 members that they send a brand new case to every month. Each case has a different theme, and recent cases have included beer from New Zealand, the USA, Ireland, the Alps, and loads of the best small batch breweries in these British Isles. If dark beer is not your thing, you can simply choose the light option and your case will come from the award-winning beer magazine Ferment and a tasty snack. Don't worry though, if you do change your mind, you can pause or cancel your account at any time.
Just go to www.beer52.com/fishon to get your first case of 8 beers for $5.95. That's www.beer52.com/fishon. Ladies and gents, Joe and I are back. Special guest, Dave Harrell. We've got some really interesting topics to talk about today. First of all, thank you everybody. Thank you whoever has been to Beer 52 site. I'm having a nice drink of hybrid theory today.
I think I've missed out here. I've known.
You've missed out, Dave.
Yeah, I've got a Vice beer today. Look at that, beautiful.
You could have sent me a case through just to get me into it.
Yeah, we could have done. Yeah, we could have done.
I'm sure
if you got on board, they'd run out. You drink them dry, Dave.
I bet Rob's got the case of mine. Yeah.
So thank you everyone who's been on the looked at the offer. Obviously, cancel it anytime you want, but I think less than £6 for 8 beers, you can't knock it at the minute. Dave Harrell.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Riverfest, because obviously the tickets have gone out, haven't they?
Yeah. God, what can I say about Riverfest? I'm so proud of that competition. It's something that came about. Well, but my first idea on it came about in 2012. Just really on a chance conversation that I overheard at. It was down at Farnborough, you know, the Big One show. And we're in the bar the one night, and Phil Briscoe from Laughter was talking about competition with somebody in the bar, and it was just an overheard conversation that this particular person said to him, "Well, what about Rivers, Phil? Is there any big matches in town?" And Phil's turned around quite rightly at the time and said, "Well, no, nobody wants to fish Rivers. There's no big matches on Rivers." And it just sort of something that just went into my head, and I couldn't stop thinking about it all overnight. I mean, I went to bed and woke up thinking, he's dead right, and I need to do something. I need to get something going on this. And it was quite funny really how it all came about, because I came up with this concept that's been repeated quite a few times over now with, you know, the 60 peg qualifier, the 20 peg zones, and so on. And I went to, but I hadn't got the infrastructure. I certainly hadn't got the time to mess about with all the admin side of it. I've got the idea. I went to Angling Trust and said, you know, would you like to take this on for me? Would you like to take the administration on? And I'll do the rest. And well, I think at the time, David Kent was in the meeting with us, and he said, yeah, something we'll look at for 2014. So bear in mind that this time, I think it was February or March 2013. And I said, no, I want to start it this year. And he said it was impossible. And I said, no, it's not. I'll do it. I'll do all the work, and as long as you'll run it. And he was most insistent it was impossible. And he was almost right, because I went away certain I could do it, you know. And I ended up, bear in mind now, everyone knows what Riverfest is about. But at the time, if I'm ringing you, Rob, or you, Joe, you might have heard of me, you might not. I'm saying to you, hello, let me introduce myself. I've got this great new competition called Riverfest. Oh, by the way, the Riverfest idea was going to be River Mania, but then Barry Hearn wouldn't let us use the name Mania in the title. So in the meantime, while I was waiting for approval, I'd come up with Riverfest anyway. So I got the email from Matchroom saying, sorry, you can't use Mania. And I sent a message back saying, hey, we've come up with a better name anyway. So don't worry about it. But no, it was a terrific amount of work because each individual I was calling, bear in mind I was trying to create at the time 20 qualifiers on different venues around the country. Some of the organisers I knew, some I'd never met. You know, it took ages to explain the whole thing. Eventually we got there, you know, and the first one, we had a few hiccups along the way. We have venues that don't sort of come up to what you want. And we reserve the right every year to sort of change it, you know. But all that's happened is we've grown it. It stimulated a lot of things in river fishing. I mean, we've had lots of festivals start from it around the country. Demand is incredible. I mean, we had 5 years of finals on the Wye, Hereford. Then we had 2 years on the Severn. And then we had the floods last year, which was a nightmare time for me personally. And now we're on Burton Joyce, the finals at Burton Joyce. We've got 25 qualifiers. Some are 40 pegs. Some are actually 80 pegs this year on the Trent matches. You know, we've sold. I really wondered when the coronavirus came about and obviously everything was shut down. I really did think we were going to struggle to sell tickets. Incredibly, we sold like 1,440 tickets. Everyone's gone. You know, that's £35 a ticket. So we got £50,000 in the prize.
When you talk about demand and worrying about whether you're going to sell the tickets, this tells you about the demand because my mate Sam Merritt, who you know, loves his river fishing, loves Riverfest. He made sure he bought the tickets because he thought even if I can't go this year, which we'll talk about that later, whether you think it's going to go, but he said even if I can't go this year, I want them for next year because he knew that there'd be a demand next year. And there's always a demand for them. So
yes, no, I mean it's been amazing, and I think a lot of that has come about really with the final venue that we've chosen. I think there's a huge amount of people want to fish Burton Joyce. You know, so you know, you just look at all the different Trent qualifiers we've got. I mean, the Trent is such a great river now again.
Full of fish, isn't it?
It's strange, really, you know, because Burton Joyce is a venue that I don't really know much about it, and I'm actually going to meet up with Wayne Swinscoe. One of my main priorities is making sure that I've got someone alongside me to give the knowledge of the venue, you know, in terms of pegging, where to put zones and so on. And obviously I can't think of anybody better than Wayne Swinscoe for that, you know. So he and I were going to do it immediately into the close season, but obviously it's been curtailed with what's been going on. But now we can travel a bit more. We're going to meet up on Thursday actually, and walk the whole river, and that's the starting point, ready for looking at the pegs for the final. You know, yeah, great. I mean, I can't. I'm just delighted that we sold all the tickets.
Did you envisage it being for big money, or did you think it was going to be like a 3-4 grand sort of final?
No, I always wanted
it proper.
But in year one, it started off the way we structured it. See, it was this two-tiered structure of having tickets that gave you. I mean, I'd love to get a big sponsor. We all would for all competitions, right? But the only way to do it was to self-finance it. So by doing tickets in advance, that is your prize pot, as we know, you know how it works. And then obviously you get pools on the day. And anglers seem to like that because, especially when we put tickets on sale in the close season,
people forget about it.
They do, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons that one or two people might not turn up on some of these matches, you know, because I've followed these up and I've spoken to people. You know, why didn't you come on the weekend? Oh, I forgot. You know, so if you bought your tickets, you know, they're not all like us. They're not all. I've got a big wall planner in front of me here on the wall, and everything's there. I know where I'm going from week to week, but I think they do genuinely forget. But
they forget they've paid the money out, don't they? So they want to pay a bit.
So then they turn up on the day and they're paying the pool money, and you know, and the rest is it just works. But I think we have found. I really believe we found our Wembley. It's perfectly based in the middle of the country. You know, whether you live in Yorkshire, East Anglia, the Midlands, London, you know, you can get to Nottingham quite easily as a central point. And it offers such a wide variety of fishing as well. You know, you've got lots of good pole fishing, waggler fishing. We found last year when we fished the one match, and again, because I didn't know the river, I didn't even got a clue how much we were on there, but I reckon there was 4 or 5 foot on the one match we fished, and £30 of bream won the match. We didn't all catch, but you're never all going to catch anywhere on that sort of difficult day. But I mean, there were bream caught up to £10 that day.
I think the Trent's like the home of river fishing anyway, isn't it? I think if you can have a final there, I think, and it works out, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I do as well, and it's something now we can take forward and develop. You know, I mean, the nice thing about working with Swinnow is that we're both on the same wavelength in terms of what's required for a good river match. We both want long pecks, for example. You know, one of the biggest gripes in my match fishing career has been, especially years ago, when we went on matches where you got 15 yards to the next man. You know, on moving water, it's a waste of time. You can't catch. Even with feeder fishing, you catch more fish in more room, don't you? You know, because
everything,
you're going to gather your fish in from that area. You know, so yeah, looking forward to it. Should be good. Just want to qualify this year.
What do you? Go on, Rob.
Go on, Joe. Go on.
What do you think? When do you think we'll be actually legitimately match fishing again, then, Dave? Because when is the first qualifier chalked in for? June
the 20th. I believe we'll be match fishing very soon. I think we've got some good news around the corner. I think Angling Trust have put together some brilliant work. I mean, I saw the interview that you did with Jamie recently, and I thought that was excellent. It came over so well. You know, and I think he's doing a great job for fishing. I think we should all support Angling Trust.
He seemed a real nice place. First time we've spoke to Jamie, and both Joe and I, we've not got any bias whatsoever, because we think the Angling Trust have made a few messes in the past, and we think they've done some good stuff as well. But we've not got any bias at all. But Jamie, I just think he came across really well. And
I thought he was great, and I've had quite a bit of communication with him. What I like about what we've been doing, and we put forward these proposals to get fishing going first of all, and then to look at competitive fishing. You know, he's talking to people like Steve Ringer. He came to me for the Riverside. You know, he's picking out certain individuals working with us, and then fine tuning it. You know, and he's working it obviously with Sport England, who in turn then working with the government. And I think they're doing a tremendous job. I really do. And I think as a result of that, because we got fishing back early, I think we'll get competitive fishing back very, very soon. I think I truly believe we'll be fishing for the start of the season.
I hope so. It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I was going to say I qualified for the first Riverfest final on the Y. And when you talk about the Trent, obviously the Y for me, because I used to do a bit, I don't do hardly any river fishing now, but I had a spell on the rivers. The Y, I was so far out of my comfort zone, because obviously it was just a raging river, and I always thought it was a great place for a final, but I think the final venue maybe was a bit Marmite, so it turned a few people off who thought, if I get to the final, I'm going to be out of my depth.
Yeah.
Or it was almost like that showpiece venue where I'd love to go and fish the Y and have a go at that style of fishing. I just think it either swung either way for a few people.
I chatted
Trent is a bit.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Dave last week when we had a quick message, didn't we? And I said the Y used to put me off, because even though, like, you know, I sponsored and everything, the thought of getting all that gear together to go and fish the Y for maybe 1 or 2 times a year.
That's how I felt in the end. But there'll be the same amount of people who'd be thinking, "Oh, I'd love to go and fish that. That looks amazing."
Absolutely, yeah. But
well, it's funny, you know, because I mean, obviously, there's venue regulars that fish a winter league on there. You know, certain people dominate results now. But the feedback I was getting was exactly the same as yours. You know, and we got the added problem of the top end. It was a big walk. If it was muddy, it was horrendous to get up there. The banks are dangerous at times. You know, lots of things were against it. I mean, there's some fantastic fish in the territory.
Oh, the best.
You know, and I enjoyed working with the Hereford people. And I took a lot of stick individually for coming away from there. I mean, you know, it gets a bit personal sometimes. But, you know, I think we did a good job for Hereford, you know, to put it more on the map than it ever was before. And, you know, it was good working with them, but I felt the time was right for a change. I mean, the last final that we had on the Y wasn't good. I mean, the top end, there were lots of dry nets and so on. We went to the 7 because I felt that was the right choice to do at the time, and it was my choice to do that. And I thought we had a good final. It wasn't a brilliant final, but the one that Lee Wright won 2 years.
Good fishing match, though, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and the river was desperately low and clear, and you know, but methods came out of it. I mean, there was a lot of pole fishing that's normally not done on the 7. Yeah. Last year, we were just very, very unlucky. You know, and the conditions just went against really from, well, most of the season. I mean, certainly from the end of September, we just couldn't get to fish on the rivers. You know,
no, you just beat it down every single day.
Yeah, but, you know, I listened to a lot of people again, and I just felt, having gone to Burton Joyce, we want somewhere that offered a final that can be fished when it's up a bit. You know, you can fish Burton Joyce with 4 foot on. I know now, because
both the 7 and the Y, it was almost touch and go every single year whether it went ahead, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we fished some horrendous. I mean, we fished that one final that Tom Lane won, and there was like 10 or 12 foot on. You know? I mean, I sat right on top of the bank, and I had a barbel nearly 10 pound. I've got 8 ounces of lead on the feed to hold the bottom. You know, I mean, it's like, I think I described it as half a church roof at the time, chucking in. It's like, and the guy next to me said, "I've never seen anything like this." He's like, you know, and you get in there, even though you're thinking, God, it's about 18 foot deep out there, you know, with extra water, and it's sort of like one tip. So I've got some rods that were based on salmon fishing blanks I'd made years ago, and I got like 14-pound main line and 8 ounces of lead just to hold the bottom. Great. It is a bit special, isn't it? Double logworm on the sides 4 up.
Do they call that man's fishing?
I reckon so.
Well, I don't know. I think I keep saying man fishing, but man fishing equals not many people catching the rod.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Right. So you think we're fishing? Riverfest is going to be fine, do you? You think we'll be fishing matches?
My prediction. It's my prediction. I think we will.
So that brings us on to close season.
Come on.
See the man.
I promise to never talk about this again.
As the river anglers, though, you've had a raw deal the last 6 or 8 months.
Yes, mate. We
Jesus
have.
Christ.
I think it was diabolical. I really.
Because let's hang on. Let's have a bit of a background. You are
Mr. Anti-close season.
Anti-close season, aren't you? If you
only for about the last 30 years.
So obviously,
hang on, that's an important point to make, because obviously you've got a commercial interest because you run a company that produces river tackle, but you were, long before that, didn't want a close season. So I think that's an important point to make.
I felt it right back to forever, really, and but certainly once we had the relaxation of the law on still waters and on canal, you know, it was 25 years ago, 1995, that was relaxed on still waters. 20 years ago, in 1990, they relaxed it on, got my dates right here, haven't I? No, 2000, sorry.
We're being guided by you, yeah.
That's right. 20 years ago, they relaxed it on canals, yeah? And I just think it's ridiculous. I cannot see for the life of me now why we've still got this 1876 law in place. 1876, by the way, was the year that a chap called Alexander Graham Bell went to visit Queen Victoria to talk about a new invention called the telephone. Right? The telephone didn't exist in 1877. I pointed this out to the EA officials, and somebody said, "What relevance is that?" And I said, "Well, a lot of things have changed since 1876. You know, why can you have so much passion for river fish, but do you not care about still water fish, because that's the same fish? It doesn't stack up, does it? The whole thing doesn't stack up." And you know, no matter what sort of arguments you put forward, you know, we had a vote, if you like, of some sort on it, and the majority of people wanted change, but still nothing came of it.
So who's holding all the cards then in this situation, Dave?
Well, you know, I mean, I was a part of a working group with Martin Salter from the EA. It's from the Angling Trust, and the EA officials then say it goes through the various channels. I don't know. The biggest stumbling block is that you're always up against this scientific proof, right? Well, nobody ever spoke about scientific proof when the commercial rules, which are, you know, the still water rules were passed. No one spoke about scientific tests about canals. Canals aren't particularly managed, are they? Okay, so yes, some of your still waters are, but they're not all. You know, there's lots of natural still waters where there isn't anybody on site looking after them. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't stack up either in my book.
No, I find it crazy. We law fish a few marinas, run off rivers, and you can fish literally next to the river, where the river runs into the marina. You can fish the same water in the close season, but you can't fish the river.
I find it absurd, and I would like, right, if the only way to ever get this sorted out is scientific proof, then let's go about next trying to find it. I mean, I'd like to talk to Jamie about this. It is my intention, but obviously there's been other more pressing matters recently. you know, if we're going to do scientific proof, let's get to the next close season and leave some waters open. And let's do some scientific proof that way. Let's monitor catches. Let's see what's caught. Let's see what's not caught, because there's going to be species going missing at certain times. You know, we've seen that. Yeah. We've seen that on the Y, where we have certain matches at the end of the season and no one catches a dace. You know, the river's full of them. But what's happened? They've gone off somewhere. They've gone off to spawn. No one catches one. You know, and I think we'd find the same with roach. But nobody really knows
where or
what fish are going to fish. I mean, I've always felt that at that period from March 15th through April, it'd be a brilliant time to fish. I think on a river, it'd be probably
the grass is greener. It's the grass is greener effect, isn't it?
Every time you finish the season, usually
coming on.
The last match of the season is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, and the rivers are getting warmer, and the fish are feeding, and everything else. You know, and I think it's a bit rude of the eight not even letting the associations manage their own waters. You know, it might well. I mean, if you're going to have a close season, you'd be far better closing in
now,
June,
like later.
Yeah,
we know when we're fishing in June the 16th, the fish are still spawning.
Quite often, I think this might be the first close season
because of the heat.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a pretty good close season, haven't we, generally?
Yeah.
But, you know, usually, I mean, I remember the last few years we've had cold spells, and we're still getting fish spawning at the end of June into July. I mean, it's absurd. You know, it really is. It needs change. It needs addressing.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand on it. I think obviously my fishing, obviously everyone's fishing. I don't know if I just like the close season just because it's always been there and I've just dealt with it and it's just been how it is. But at the same time, in the ideal situation for me, every piece of river would be managed. Yeah. And when the fish were spawning for those few days or that week, a fishery manager says, spawning today, lads, no fishing. That's the ideal situation. But obviously not all rivers are managed, but there's some massive clubs managing rivers.
Yeah, there is.
And I bet 80% are reasonably managed, aren't they? 70 or 80% of rivers are reasonably managed.
You know, and I use the examples of all the Riverfest venues. I'm saying, if we're going to try this scientific proof, you haven't necessarily got to say you're going to leave them all open. Let's pick out venues like the ones we're talking about, where you know that it's good management, where you know that the data will be collected on, you know, on catch weights, pictures if they want it. You know, every year we have a group of EA people come along to Burton-on-Trent after one of the matches we fish. And they come along doing data check. They check the size of it, they check your weights, they check scale checks, they do measurements. And it's great. It's great seeing them. They obviously care, and they're obviously collecting data because there was a big stocking policy done there. Right? Why can't the same thing be employed to work with the EA rather than this big standoff that we seem to be getting?
What was the route back for still waters and canals then? Was there any proof or was there any scientific studies done, or was it just a case of?
No, it was very commercial based. It was. I think I am right in saying this, and this is my recollection of it all, is that you had a group of fishery owners, you know, like the Glebe and Billy Makin. Billy Makin was a part of it. I mean, I had some communication with Billy recently. And obviously Billy had got Makin's fisheries up at Hinkley. And basically they went to the government, and I think that I'm right in saying this, and I'm 99% anyway, that there was legal action threatened if they stopped these fisheries from trading, because it was their livelihood that was being put under threat. And there was a lot of pressure put on by, I think it was like Premier Fisheries that was created at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And you know, that passed it through. Quite how the canals got through, I'm not sure. Really, I'm just not sure at all, because canals, to me, no one ever manages canals. I mean, okay, you've got Canals and Rivers Trust as such, but you could go to any stretch around here where I live and go and fish now, and there wouldn't be anybody that comes along.
No, we have the canal near me is a bit more countrified. So as you get out of Leicester, it goes into countryside, and once you get to a certain point, it becomes a site of special scientific interest, triple SI site, and that's where you can't fish.
Yes.
But everywhere else, so one side of the bridge you can fish, the other side of the bridge you can't, which I find a bit crazy because it looks exactly the same to me, and I can't. You know, they might have found
same fish again,
or it's the same fish, but I don't know the reasons behind it.
On the river thing, it appears to me, I don't go on rivers every week, but the fishing seems to be better these days than it has been for a long, long time.
It's terrific. Yeah.
So is there not an argument, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Just playing devil's advocate.
Well, of course there is, yeah. I mean, there always is that argument. There's arguments all around, and I'm not saying I'm right about everything at all here, but I'm saying we're being robbed of the opportunity to fish for a big chunk of the year now. I mean, you look at what's happened. I mean, it was an extreme year, the one that's just gone.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, even in the summer, I fish a float-only championship thing at Bewdley, which is 6 matches. I'm just looking here now. We start again on June the 24th. Now, even the first match of that series last year, the river was high, and I think it should have been called off because we had reserve dates. In hindsight, now if you had called it off, we'd never have fished them because by the time we got to October,
it was unfishable.
We hardly got near a river again.
It rained every day.
Incredible. Now, I just feel sorry for water owners. I feel sorry for tackle shops in the area. I remember a friend of mine owns a tackle shop at Bridgenorth. Now, he hardly traded from October to March. It was a real struggle. I know, because he told me. And then you've got a close season. Well, obviously now we've had coronavirus as well, so they had to close the shops. Thankfully, they've had government support, because without it, I think there would have been an awful lot of shops going under this year.
Yeah, because those shops, like your Evesham shops and all that, they rely so much on that river. They're almost like your fishery shop without being a fishery shop, aren't they? Essentially,
it's not just about your local anglers. You see, Bridgenorth on the Severn is right on the banks of the River Severn, right? So he gets an enormous amount of tourist trade as well. People just come and stay. It's a great place for anglers to go in to buy the bait and tackle, to get the right advice in terms of where do I go. And he's going to give you the right advice because he wants you to catch fish. So, but no, why should he be robbed? If there's no need for the close season in a normal year without coronavirus and so on, why should he be robbed after March the 14th of trading that period, even if it's up till the end of April? It'd make a lot more sense than the stupid 1876 law.
I suppose it's giving people choice.
Bell think of it.
It's giving people choice. So obviously, if they choose to go, and I suppose if the clubs can control the waterway, then it should be. If the clubs can have proper control, then I see no reason why they can't let them.
And if it's a small river, and they've got barbel in there, but this barbel seems to be the stumbling block with a lot of people.
I know there's a big stigma about barbel, isn't there?
What about the poor perch that spawn in February? We're happy to catch them.
Yeah, no one cares about the poor perch.
No one cares about the poor spiny buggers.
All down tents that these same people. I keep seeing people holding these big tents up full of
spawn.
Normal bellies. I've got a £10 tent. Well, £4 of it spawn. It's like they don't seem to mind catching them in May. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Barbel have put on that higher standing. Barbel have put on that higher standing for a lot of anglers.
And if it is a little river, and you control that river. Every good bit of river in this country, anything that's any good, is controlled. It's owned by somebody, a club, association. Yeah. It's all controlled, so they can then force their own close season, can't they? Easy.
Yeah.
Don't get it.
Yeah. So what are you going to carry on fighting it, or are you taking the foot off the pedal?
I want to talk to the Angling Trust because I feel if the only way is to try and get scientific tests done, then let's do it. Otherwise, somebody in 100 years' time is going to have my role and still bleating on about 1870.
It would be strange if in 100 years' time there's still a close season, because it does seem an old rule, but I still can't decide whether it's the right rule or not. I still can't decide.
Rob, I think bit by bit, you see, the problem is now the way it's all advanced and the way things have pushed towards commercial fisheries. I think once certain age groups have gone through it, there's not many people left doing it anyway.
No, there isn't, no. But I think Riverfest, as you mentioned, Riverfest is really
booming.
Yeah, I think that's kicked on.
It hasn't spawned loads of new youngsters, has it?
No, but I don't know what competition has.
No.
I think you've got a lot of anglers that were getting a bit disenchanted with river fishing, or they'd turned to commercials and they weren't really feeling comfortable, and then they've turned back to rivers. And I think
we needed a global pandemic to spawn a load of new anglers by the looks of it.
Yeah,
because there's anglers everywhere at the minute.
There's anglers everywhere. That is brilliant. That is.
I can't believe it. I saw a video of Nigel Harris at Barston.
Oh, the bivvies all lined up.
Every
And there's
fishery is
just a
full.
whole line of car
Yeah.
bankers.
Dave, I've been walking the canal on bits that is the absolutely rubbish bits where you'd never fish in your life because the rubbish. There's a bit that we've got on the local canal. It's called Cyanide Strait. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
And I've been walking along the straight, and there's people there with, obviously they've got the gear out of the granddad's loft or whatever they've managed to do. Just go down because they want an excuse to go out with their mates. They're sitting there fishing. Now, if just a small percentage of those people carry it on,
Brilliant.
Because I was at Shearsby on Thursday, and
Dan said to me,
there was 3 or 4 sort of match anglers per se, but the rest of the fishery was full with dads and lads and little families there fishing with their daughters and stuff. I just thought,
It's great, isn't it? It's
yeah,
great
fantastic,
to see it, isn't it?
really good.
I wonder if I was speaking to Dan about that, Joe, and obviously I know Dan obviously at Shearsby is not big enough to make a difference in the grand scheme of things, but I wonder if a company could get involved in somewhere, maybe do some sort of initiative. Maybe it's an angling trust thing where it's, I don't know, take your son and it's free of charge, or just and get it at a few premier fisheries, so they know they can go to a proper fishery. And if you take a kid, the adult pays, the kid fishes for free.
Yeah,
I think it's great. A few years ago, I went to a think tank with the EA, talking about close seasons and all sorts. And I put forward this idea. I wanted to do like go river fishing, as a new campaign. And I said I'd love to front something like this and get regional coordinators, get the trade involved. And we went through it. And this lady she was head of fisheries or assistant head of fisheries at the time. And she was scribbling all these notes. And she said, when would be a good time to do this? And I said, April. And she said, we have a close season in April. And I said, that's where you come in. I said, because everything tends to cram June onwards. So suddenly people like me and the trade people at Tackle Shop, they haven't got time to give loads of spare time up in June onwards because they've got to make a crust, got to earn a crust.
Yeah. You're on the Bewdley Float League.
Well, whatever, we've got to go. But you know what I mean, though? It's like there's an opportunity there. I'm sure that sometimes I get the impression when people come walking along places like Shrewsbury, when a lot of people through the park, I'm wondering, I bet they're thinking like, what's this all about? Maybe a bit shy to ask or whatever. Imagine advertising something in local press all around the country. Come river fishing, we're going to take, say Stratford or Bewdley or Bridgenorth or the Saw.
Always look at Evesham. There's a prime example. The amount of people that walk along that path and think, I'd love to go at that, but I don't know what anything's about.
Have some focus days. I'm not saying just for rivers, I'm saying but add some focus days where you advertise it to non-anglers. Don't just stick it in the Angling Times, they go fishing anyway, right?
Yeah.
Go to non-anglers, go to Facebook. Facebook can just take stuff everywhere, can't it now? So, come and have a go. Come and see what it's about. It's free. It's a free day to come and see some demonstrations by good anglers. You can have your local tackle shop offering some discount forms or whatever, You couldn't fail to get more people fishing, could you? Really?
No. Well, anything's better than
nothing. To do pretty rubbish, wouldn't you, to not get any more anglers?
Tackling Guns, the show for Stoneleigh this year, they've got plenty of advertisements on local radio, and it didn't seem out of place. When an advertisement for a fishing show comes on, it didn't seem out of place.
Newspapers, radio, TV, all these media channels all want news, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
that's feel good news, isn't it?
Feel good news.
Time like this, it's like we're giving something for nothing to the community.
Yeah,
I don't think many situations where they wouldn't help you or wouldn't pick up on it really.
Do you think the fact that we're all behind closed doors on a commercial fishery is a bit of a downside for the game? Because obviously, little Johnny walking along the canal never sees an angler now, so he never even asks his mum or dad, "What's that all about? I'd love to do that," because we're all behind a gate. I
would imagine, yeah. I mean, obviously, they see it a little bit more on rivers, don't they? If you walk along and no one's catching it, you have to time it right to see if it's being caught. Then you do, yeah. Unless you're behind me, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I the Evesham Festival, it was tipping it down with rain. I always remember everyone waxing on about Matt Godfrey. This is probably 4 years ago, and he caught a load of fish on bloodworm. There were only tiny fish, there were micro fish really, but I think he had £7. Not great, but the fact that he was in and out, getting bites all the time, shipping in, shipping out, fast, it looked energetic, it created a buzz, and that was of interest to people because there was movement, who's moving around. So
I think, you know, going back to the angling trust, this is where the angling trust is so important to the future of fishing. You know, it needs more support. I mean, it's a shame that we haven't got everybody as a member, because you imagine if, I mean, I still believe that if you could just find a way of getting £5 or 10 quid channeled in from that license fee to the angling trust, it wouldn't need to be £30 then, would it? Because the amount of money that would be coming in, it would help to fund so many different things. You know, when you go to Italy, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. When you go to Italy, they have a world championship, and they spent about €1 million or some crazy amount of money re-landscaping the venue, right? Because the money's in there from the license fees to do it. And I think
all these international governing bodies, they're a million miles ahead of UK.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think, you know, for the future of angling, it really saddens me that I read some of the crap that goes on Facebook at times, that totally selfish anglers just, you know, they've got no interest whatsoever in the future of fishing, clearly. You know.
You've got to remember the angling trust in people's eyes have made a few mistakes in the past. So it's going to be a long road back for the angling trust. I know they've
got a great guy at the helm now, and I think you know, anglers should give it.
At least, like we said, didn't we, when we were chatting to Jamie? At least he's visible. Like the old guy, I'd never met him or anything. Like I didn't even know who he was. I never saw him do a video. I never seen him. At least he's like Jamie's trying, isn't he? He's trying.
Yes, very much so. He's a good person to have in that role.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully, you know, in terms of like promoting more getting more anglers, I think I'll do a good job for it. Really.
What about your fishing then, Dave? Why aren't you going commercial fishing at the moment?
Can't wait, because I can't use a keepness now. No, God, commercial fishing. It's strange, really.
Because you was like a pioneer, weren't you? Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I remember going on the very first match at Hayford Fishery, and you know, Nether Hayford, and it's billed as like the perfect snake lake venue where everyone's going to be on the same amount of fish. But no one told the fish, because you got bends and bridges, so everybody that was on the straight didn't catch anything. And it was like moon based. I remember saying, if this is the future of fishing, I don't want to be a part of it. It was horrible. Right? That place now, as the years went on, it became lovely. You know, as things grew, and you know, we started to go to Moreland's Farm, Woodland View, places like this. And
I used to read loads of articles of you at Woodlands View. I've watched a couple of videos as well, I think.
It's weird when you look back at some of the things we did, and it's, you know, we were using like solid 6 and solid 8 elastics, and we were convinced at the time, because we used fairly small, you know, 18, 16, I suppose, but you seem to land everything on a 6, you're like netting them at 11 meters, like this. It seems so ridiculous now, you know, with pullers and all that. But you know, you hear people saying after the match, I went onto an 8 elastic where I kept bumping them. You know, but I mean, what was happening is we were catching bigger weights than we ever caught before. You know, £50, £60, 70. Then you did your first ton.
And I think the venues were a bit more mixed as well, weren't there? There was it wasn't just all carp, was it?
No. I mean, Morelands. The biggest problem that happened at Morelands when they brought in the bait limit thing. I hated that, because people
was lashing in maggots.
Well, yeah, but people thought you were using like 2 gallon. That was what it was muted. Just put at least 1 gallon in tonight, sort of thing. Now, you know, if you're fishing with maggots and stuff, you're feeding all the time. Unless you're like filling the cup of whites, you're never going to get through 1 gallon anyway, right? It's just the fact that they see you using the catapult regular. I hardly ever got through more than 4 or 5 pints, you know. And yet he introduced this bait limit. And the problem was then, we used to take maggots, we used to take casters and squats, and the squats, I believe it was squats to Moreland, because there were skimmers in there, right? And, you know, if you drew the one end of the lake and you fished like that and you were coupling in squats and casters, you caught skimmers, you know. If you drew the carp end of the big lake, you didn't need that bait at all to stay in your cold bag. You know, you just use maggots. So then you had to make the choice then. So you got a 5 pint limit in your bag. So it's like, well, what do I take, you know? So sometimes you throw it all and you think, I'll just go down that route of maggot, and then you draw the other end. You end up trying to swap bait with people. And I didn't like it. What was happening for me is that my first love was always rivers, obviously, and it was difficult to mix and match the two. You know, if you're going to be dedicated to the one, I think these days people like Darren Cox can dip into the rivers occasionally. I mean, you know, not that regular now, because obviously he's committed to the commercial world. You know.
But he does have a huge background in river fishing as well, which helps.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
absolutely. But obviously, for younger people coming through to it now, I mean, they've never been subjected to it. And why should they? You know, why should they?
Were you fishing internationals when you were doing your?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Commercial
I fished my first international. I fished the home international in '87 up in Scotland, and that in itself was fantastic. Fishing with Ian Heaps and Kevin Ashurst and Ivan Marks was in the squad as well. Tommy Pickering, Dennis White, people like this. I mean, I was completely in awe of these people. I mean, these suddenly you're fishing with your heroes, you know. Talk about feeling nervous and not wanting to make a mistake. I mean, it was incredible. I travelled with Ian Heaps, you know. I travelled up to there, and I mean, Ian was a big star then. You know,
Yeah.
And Kevin Asher said to me, he said, how's they got on with Ian B? And I said, all right. He said, has he put his hand in his pocket yet? Well, he said, I bet he hasn't paid for any petrol either. I drove. And, I don't think he paid me anything.
Right.
Great company. And it was a fantastic time. I managed to get into the world squad, fished the second day in Portugal in '93. And then I was in and out the squad between '87 and 2000, really, you know.
Why were you in and out? Because obviously now, once you're in a squad, you seem to be.
What happened there?
In there.
Dick, you see, at that time, Dick was picking. I mean, Dick Clegg was still finding his way, but he obviously got it right when they won the first one in '85 in Italy, when they won that on the Riverfest, which was a fantastic achievement. The first time an England team had won. And then when I became a part of it, it was very apparent that he was trying to pick anglers to suit the venues.
Horses for courses.
Style of fishing. I mean, I said to Dick the one day, you know, what do you want me to do? Because I knew my weakness was always going to be bloodworm fishing, that sort of thing, because I didn't do it. And, you know, do you want me to do it? And at that time was probably my most successful time in match fishing. And he just said to me, keep doing what you're doing. When the time is right, you'll be called. You know, you'll be called up. And it was a marvellous occasion. You were always disappointed when you weren't in. Well, I felt I should have fished in '82, the one that Dave Wesson won on
92. Is it?
Sorry?
92.
92 in Ireland.
Yeah.
92. I mean, it was a desperately hard match, but learnt loads about fishing sliders and seeing bollow fishing. You know.
So every time basically a rod and line venue came up, or somewhere where it was a bit more positive, you'd get.
I fished the first European Championship, and that was a pole match. And, I mean, he actually left Kevin out. He left Kevin out of the actual lineup for that. Right. I fished in Belgium on the Mars River. That was good. Interesting fishing, because obviously the more bait that went out over the week, the more fish came into the system. You know, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And if anything, when I look back on it, I probably fished too negative, which is unlike me. I mean, all my gear was set up because of what we'd learnt in the week. Just light elastics. Everything was fine, and there's a lot more fish appeared than we realised. And I hadn't got enough top kits to have. Again, it seems a bit that now, but I needed a few more top kits with some stronger gear on and some bagging gear rather than netting these, you know.
Right.
But no, great experience, and the culmination would have been '98 for me, fishing the European champs and winning the gold. And I came 7th, missed out on first by one fish that I lost. And Tommy Pickering came 3rd, and I broke his vase. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but oh God, if Tommy watches this, he still calls me after. I mean, how many years is this now? He still calls me the pot breaker.
Right.
to use a Doncaster expression. What it was, like Tommy had come 3rd, so he was like the bronze medalist, and he won this wonderful vase. It's really big, long, slender thing. So he's put it in the van, and then
like a crystal vase sort of thing.
Yeah. Sort of thing. So there's Alan Scotto and Tommy and me in the van, and I'm loading all the holdalls in. I chucked it. I chucked it straight into the middle of it. I just broke it in half. I'm like, oh no! I heard it break, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was absolutely distraught, and I thought he's going to go mad. Like Tommy was so proud of winning, he did all these pictures with his trophy. And I'm thinking, what can I do? It's like I thought, shall I just not say anything. You know, and then when we load the kit, oh, Tom, your vase is broke. I couldn't do it. I said, Tom, I've got a big confession to make. He said, well, I said, I broke your vase. He's like, oh no. I said, I'll buy a new one. If they can get another one, I'll pay for one. Yeah. Or I'll give you some Harrell diet or something. Do it back again. But he still calls me the pot breaker after all these years.
The pot breaker.
I can hear him saying it.
Yeah. The pot breaker.
Still puts me through the pain barrier every time we talk about it. But,
pot breaker.
No, you know, fishing with those guys, wonderful. You know, I was there when I fished on the Mint Show in '96, so I didn't make the team on the thing, but to get into that team is so incredible. You know, when you've got like Alan Scotland and Bob Nudd and Dennis White and Kim Milson, just to be a part of it is great. I mean, yeah, I would all like to be world champion, but I'm so proud that I did manage to win a gold medal. You know, and fishing alongside them was great. You know, wonderful. And I can't speak highly enough of Dick, really. You know, Dick Clegg, what a marvellous manager.
How did it come to an end then? Was it just a case of you not in, or did it just peter out gradually?
It came to the end because there was obviously the change of management in the end. Dick stood down, and then Mark Downs and Mark Addy took over, and they just wanted different people in. You know, they've done it differently. They've reverted to a more stable, regular team. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of those lads have been together for ages now. You know? Stevie Gardner was there for forever. Yeah, and then he went out. But I mean, if you look at the base of that team now, it's been together such a long time. You know? And it's a brilliant team, isn't it? You know,
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
You know, but no, fabulous memories. You know.
What do you see the future for international fishing, Dave? Because obviously they've not got a sponsor at the minute. Do you think people in this country are more interested in all the big money matches? And
yeah, I do.
They're not interested in international style fishing.
An example I've often spoken about. You know, when I was working at DHP producing magazines. I want Kevin Wilmot, who previously worked at Match Angling Plus, that I used to do work for, came to work for DHP. And I was telling him I had a fancy going over to the World Champs in 2008 and doing a real big special on it. And there was John Arthur and Mark Williams and myself. And we hired this super long distance camera so we could get some fantastic pictures off the bridge of the lineups, you know. This mega lens. So, you know, we used quite a lot of budget to take people over there. We all had different jobs to do and tight deadlines. We did a 15-page special.
It was brilliant.
Kevin had said to me, be careful because it won't sell.
He always used to warn me. Because I used to say, look, the international style needs push the match fishing, push match. He says, if we put match fishing on the front of Angling Times, it's our lowest selling. Well, anything to do with the international stuff, it doesn't sell.
What followed? I mean, we had a wonderful weekend. You know, there's still a lot of the lads. They're all my mates that are fishing in the team, so you're part of it. And you know, I mean, I think Mark sat with Will on the second day, and Will went on to win the gold. I sat with Stevie Gardner, who I rate as my favourite ever international angler. You know, and it was just a brilliant weekend. They wouldn't say, so what a great finish, double gold. You know, it's the front cover, you know, the inside story, the behind the scenes. It was a wonderful cover, fantastic pictures. We all raced around doing our own chunks of the mag for publication to get it through deadline, and it was the worst selling magazine of the year. If we had put a front cover with all you ever wanted to know about pellets, that would have sold loads more, and that's the
reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the reality.
You know, Joe, you've worked the same thing. You know, that's what the majority sort of want now.
That is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's.
I remember that special he did. It was wonderful, like brilliant to see it like that. So I had so much interest in that style at the time, but it just, I don't know. Just seems to fade away now, doesn't it?
Imagine how many pictures we went to. We all had big cameras. So when we came to sort it, we got about 1,000 pictures a piece to sort out. You know, just to get to deadline. So I think we've got about a week to get to deadline to publish it. You know, so yeah, it's good though. It's good.
Yeah, actually going out and shooting some work, putting the time and effort in, and then for it to just be a waste of time.
You know, it's
Heartbreaking.
Proper journalism, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That weekend was quite emotional because having been a part of it, knowing what it means to the competitors, and also your country's won it. You know, when they were up on the pedestal, you know, and your national anthem was playing, it's really quite emotional to watch. It's good. And obviously, that was the one where Will's dad couldn't be there.
Yeah.
You know, so I rang Will's dad from there just to let him know what had happened. You know, because he was in hospital at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great occasion.
But your time at the mag, Dave, how long were you at the magazine for?
7 years.
Right.
It's really strange, that was. When I started, because I'd been in business with partners for 15 years, which went wrong in the end, which I won't bore you with. I needed a change, you know, and I went to see David Hall, and I wasn't thinking of trying to get a job in publishing whatsoever, but he rang me on the evening, because we had lunch in Daventry, and he rang me, and I just said, put my name around the trade, I'm looking for a job, you know. And he rang me and he said, how about you come work for us? And I'm like, what? Work for you? Doing what? Magazines. You had your own magazine, Match Fishing.
Who was the previous editor?
Sean Ashby had done it.
Because he stuck it for about a week, didn't he?
It wasn't long, but and then various people had done it before. And then
yeah.
I'd grown up with Match Fishing. I mean, I'd done columns in there for years myself in the 80s. And I don't know, it appealed to me, but I don't know. So I came back to Daventry. We had another sit down and had a look around the building. And then I came away, and I thought, I need a holiday before I start this. So I went away to Jamaica for 2 weeks. Then I started the job, and you know, I came back off holiday and I went into this big open plan office. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I'm just looking around, and all these people tapping away at computers and stuff like this. And it's like, this is not me.
Bit sterile.
Yeah, very. It was different because everybody was in. There weren't so many people in the day. Gone to the second interview sort of thing, or my interview. You know, and I mean, David was a personal friend for many years standing. You know, and anyway, as the day went on, I mean, Alex Bones and Pat were working. That I was their direct boss, really, even though they knew more about it than me. And I'm sat there thinking, I can't do this. I'm gonna tell him. I'm not gonna come back tomorrow. It was also 70 miles from where I lived. I was living in Bewdley there, next to the river, and in a nice location. I'm thinking, I made a big mistake here. You know, like, this is wrong. I'll tell him tonight. And so, because he came down in the afternoon, he said, "You fancy a beer on the way home?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, be good." I thought, I'll tell him then. I'll tell him in the Dun Cow in Dunchurch. So he stood at the bar chatting away, and he said, "You do realise, of course," we were just waiting for our first beer to come. He said, "You do realise a lot of people think I made a mistake with you." And I'm like, "Why is that then?" He said, "Well, they think you're a bit of a loose cannon and blah, 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 and you won't stick it." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm thinking, how do I tell him now? How do I tell him that he's right?" Right? And I thought, I'll tell him tomorrow. I'll send him a text. I'll do a cowardly way out and just not turn up the next day. But psychologically, as I'm driving out, thinking, I wonder who said that. Has anybody said? Is he making it up? It's like, but it just gnaws away here. So I went back in on day 2, and I thought, I'll show them. You know, it's like one of them, really. And I thoroughly enjoyed 5 years of it. I didn't really enjoy the last couple of years of it because it was clear what was happening in paper publishing. But no regrets whatsoever because it gave me lots of skill sets. You know, it created lots of new friendships, Joe, with the gang that we used to work with and stuff like that, you know. And everyone really has done well from it, really. You know, it's a knock on, haven't they? You know, you look at Johnny Arthur and you know, Mark and you know, Tom Scully and so on. We all learned a lot from it, you know. And you know, I like to think we produce some good things between us, produce some good magazines. But I should have left 2 years before, really. I wish I'd have left 2 years before I did. But when I did, when I quit, I just quit because I was really fed up with David Hall.
I remember we was at Gold Valley, and whatever happened, you was like, "Oh shit, I've got to go." Like, what
it was, David Hall had fallen out with Peter Drennan years ago, right? I managed to repair the relationship. We went down and had lunch with him down on the banks of the Thames, this wonderful posh restaurant. we came back in the back of this chauffeur-driven Mercedes that David had fixed up for us. And I wanted a new junior member of staff. This is the real story behind it all. Mm. And he agreed to it, and having got rid of an idiot that he employed before then, right? He agreed to it. Then Sean O'Driscoll, who was the MD at the time, vetoed it and said, you can't, right? And made me look forward to this junior member. And I came around the one night and I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore.
Had you already hired you'd hired the junior member?
I told him, because
and then you were told you can't have him.
I'd set this lad tests and all sorts, write about your best ever day and write about your favourite tackle. And anyway, he said the budget wasn't there to do it, so I can't have this member. So I go then ring the kid and say, look, sorry, you can't start after all. And it just made me look a fool. I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I just reached the point where I needed out, just needed a change, So I quit. I drove home that angry day. I was so angry that day because David and I fell out. And I thought, what am I doing in rugby anyway? I don't live in rugby. I should be in Worcestershire. I'm going to sell my house. I'll be back in Worcestershire by September. This was in the June or May. And how many years later? 9 years later, I'm still in rugby.
Did you say, obviously, were you still friends with David after?
No, we fell out for some time, but we managed to patch it up in the end.
Yeah, I can't imagine David. Obviously, I think he's quite volatile. He understands anger as well, doesn't he? He understands the emotions.
I mean, David obviously died of cancer in the end.
Yeah.
And, I like to remember all the good times we had, all the nights. He taught me a lot about red wine. He used to get some wonderful wine, and we won't talk about his smoking habits. No, it was good, but I needed a change, and thankfully it's all worked out right,
Yeah, perfect. So business-wise, what's the crack with your business, Dave?
Well, just going back then, it was strange because I drove back and I hadn't got anything to walk into.
Did you almost did it force you to create what you've created then?
Sometimes we need that, don't we? We need to be in this. I've only ever quit 2 jobs in my life. One was an insurance job in '89, and it took me into the industry after that. And this one, I just felt, it all sort of fell into place in my head, really, because the day after I quit, I really felt I wanted to be my own boss again. I felt for too many years I'd been under the safety net of other people. It's time to get up on that trapeze, if you like, take the safety net away and do it yourself. And if you let go, you're going to die. Sort of thing. So it really spurred me on, but creating what I wanted to do, obviously the industry had changed quite a lot in that time. And I just felt, give it a couple of years. If it doesn't work, so be it. You've tried. At least you've tried. You're never going to look back later in your life and think, I wish I'd have tried that, but it's too late then.
Right. And
now, we're sort of 8 years on. It's going really well. Yeah, it's good. I keep adding things steadily. It's a small brand that I look after myself. It's all, I do everything from creating the idea, to sampling products, to packing the parcel at the end of it. I get a little bit of help now and again if I need it, but generally it's all down to me. So days tend to become longer and longer after a while.
Right. So when you're doing it all from home, have you got storage?
Well, I had a big extension built onto the garage a couple of years ago. I'm now in the process of building another extension because I've just outgrown that one. It was either that or rent a unit. So now I'm going to have loads of good storage space and my office there as well, sort of thing.
Oh,
so yeah, it's good. It's really good. It used to take me 70 miles to get to work. It takes 30 seconds now.
Perfect.
So I do.
Perfect. I've got a game of golf to go to.
Go on.
I've got a game of golf to go to, yeah.
I've got to hang some curtains.
Oh, lucky you. Lucky you.
Life is rock and roll at my end.
Yeah, good for you, Dave. Thank you very much,
Dave.
Good to catch up, boys.
We'll get you on again. We'll have some other topics to talk about.
See you on a Riverfest match in the near future.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about Riverfest, but I fancy a few trips to Evesham this year. I didn't go at all. Did I go last year? Did I go last year?
After Burton Joyce, there's loads of open matches there. And Burton.
As soon as the river opens, that's where I'm going.
Is it?
We'll do it. I'll see you there.
Well, Burton Joyce, it's a lot of float fishing, isn't it?
Yes.
Like a bit of feeder work.
Me and Lee went and fished the feeder, and it was brilliant.
Was it? Was it a Fisher Chuck Dacing on the feeder?
Yeah, and them big days.
Oh, brilliant! I can do that.
Yeah,
And big bream. You'll be all right, Rob.
Yeah.
And you can park behind your peg.
Oh, I can park my own peg. I'm sold. That's it. I'm in. I'm there.
Sorted.
Right.
Thank you,
Thank you, everybody. Cheers, Joe. Cheers, Dave.
Nice seeing you. Cheers.
See you later. Bye.